I remember when she made me drink a ton of water. I didn't know why until she took me into the bathroom and went on her knees and said, "Okay, Bubba, put it on me. Give me the golden shower." Like, what was this girl asking me to do? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome to another really embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back in my high school years, and this was actually my grade 12 year. So my grade 12 year, I was actually graduating and getting out of high school. And honestly, I was really excited too, because I'm not gonna lie to you, school is probably the worst years of my life. Even though it may sound really entertaining throughout this channel of me telling all these insane stories, I won't lie, I never really enjoyed high school. Part of me wishes nowadays, since I'm older now, is that I wish I actually paid attention more in school and actually focus on an actual future and actually go to college. But I mean, thanks to you guys made my future more fun with doing these stories. But going on with this story, I remember one time in my grade 12 year, I was just walking around the school, just hanging out with some of my friends, and out of nowhere, I ended up seeing a girl that not a lot of guys really talk to. I didn't know why until I looked over at one of my friends and asked him, "Yo, bro, I'm just curious. Why does no one talk to that girl? Like, for real, in the beginning of the school year, she was all popular. Now she's just like, what, weird? Oh, bro, you didn't hear? Apparently she's like into like some really weird stuff, bro. Trust me, you don't want to talk to her." Well, I mean, she's not ugly. How bad could it be? I remember my friends ended up shrugging their shoulders because they didn't know why this girl was known to be so weird. So what I decided to do is actually walk up to her. I remember I walked up to her straight up and I said, "Hey, like, how's it going? I'm Bubba." "Oh, hey, Bubba. Yeah, I know about you. Some of the girls talk about you in class." "Oh, what did they say? Hopefully good things." "Well, I mean, other than, you being really good at Devil's Tango, they say some pretty weird stuff about you." "Okay, well, that sucks. But other than that, I mean, like, you down to like maybe hang out?" "Actually, you know what? You might be the perfect guy the more I think about it." When she said this, I did not know what she was talking about, but she ended up giving me her phone and we ended up exchanging social medias. And while one thing led to another, I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was locked in. But right after this girl walks away, one of the guys that I used to play rugby with ended up walking up to me saying, "Yo, Bubba, what are you doing with that girl, bro?" I don't know, just, decided to talk to her. "Why? What's up?" "Bro, you do know that's like the weird girl, right? Like, she's major weird." "Yeah, no, I heard. I don't know why though. Do you know?" Well, no, I don't know, but like, all I'm saying is, bro, is like, it's your funeral." And he walked away. At this point, obviously something was really off with this girl. But me, you gotta understand, at this time in my life, I did a lot of the Devil's Tango. So I thought I was prepared for anything. My confidence boost was like to the max. So instantly right at that moment, I remember I ended up heading to my next class. And as I was in my next class, I remember I ended up getting a text message on my phone. It was from the girl that I just talked to. And she was like telling me about like, life and stuff and how she had a pretty hard childhood. And, she started basically trauma dumping me. And girls do this a lot for some reason. They think like right away when they meet a new person in their life, they think trauma dumping is probably the smartest thing to do. When in reality, girls, if you're watching this, it's really a turn off. But obviously I was being nice about it and I was listening in on everything. And then one thing led to another. I remember she ended up saying, "Oh, so like after school, what do you want to do?" "Oh, I was thinking of maybe like, hanging out, just chilling." "Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking we go back to my place." I mean, we can, but like, don't you like want to like hang out first?" "I mean, yeah, we can. I'm down." Now, the reason I didn't instantly decide to go to her place was because obviously I wanted to actually get to know this girl to make sure I wasn't going into some crazy stuff. Because even though I was super confident in myself, obviously I wanted to know why everyone thought she was so weird. So one thing led to another. I remember after school came around and me and her, we ended up meeting up in front of the school. We got in my car and I started driving to the mall. As I was driving to the mall though, I remember she started getting really touchy with me and started putting her hand on my thigh and stuff and basically was signaling that she was really in the mood. I didn't know why, but obviously I was like, kind of just telling her to calm down and stuff because I get it. I was attractive back in high school, but I don't think I was that attractive. But once we got to the mall, I remember me and her, we started walking around. I started basically telling her about myself this time. And well, I'm not gonna lie, we got along pretty well. We both realized that we both enjoyed doing the Devil's Tango. But other than that, we both enjoyed the same foods and stuff. And I remember as we were walking through the mall, out of nowhere, she ended up seeing this bubble tea place. Now, I like bubble tea. I think bubble tea is a really good drink. And I remember I ended up going up to the bubble tea place and ordering a drink. And she did the same thing as well, except the one thing that was really odd is that after when she got her drink into her hand, me and her started walking around and I started to realize that this girl was not drinking her bubble tea. I looked at her and said, "Oh, are you like not thirsty? Do you not want it anymore?" "Oh, yeah, I'm actually not that thirsty. Here, you want to drink it?" Yeah, sure, I'll drink it." So I remember after I finished mine, I ended up drinking hers, but halfway through drinking hers, I remember I wasn't really feeling it anymore because I felt like I had too many bubbles or bobas, I guess it's called. And basically I was planning on throwing it away. But as I was about to throw it away, she looks at me and says, "Bubba, are you seriously gonna waste that? There's no way. I mean, it's not that much left. Bubba, just drink it all. Come on, you're gonna need it for later." "I'm gonna need What? What are you talking about? At this point, she went silent and started giggling, but I did not know what she meant when she said that, and it started to make me worry. Was this the weird thing that everyone was talking about? Well, later on, you guys will figure out what it was, because I remember after we finished hanging out at the mall, me and her, we went back to the parking lot and got in my car. And when I got inside my car, I remember I was just basically planning on just driving her back to her place and dropping her off, but she had other plans in mind, because I remember she looked at me and said, "Oh, Bubba, I was just wondering, want to like actually head back to my place?" Yeah, okay, sure. You know what? We'll go back to your place. And I remember we ended up driving back to her place. I parked the car, and I remember once I walked through her house doors, I instantly realized I had to go to the bathroom. So I look at her and say, "Oh, so I was just wondering, where's your bathroom?" "Oh, don't worry, you're not gonna need it right now. We can use it later." "No, but I need to go to the bathroom now." "Oh, Bubba, trust me, you're gonna need it for later." "What do you mean I'm gonna need it for later? What are you asking me to do? Do a urine test?" At this point, I didn't know what this girl was talking about, nor what she needed. And then one thing led to another. I remember I ended up going into her kitchen with her, and then she pulled out like 4 different water bottles, and I looked at her saying, "Oh, are you thirsty?" "Oh no, this is for you. Don't worry about it." And then she ended up taking me into her bedroom with the water bottles that she had in her hand, and one thing led to another. She put them all in the nightstand. At this point, I was questioning what was going on, but then right as I was questioning everything, she ended up hopping onto me and started making out with me on her bed. So at this point, I'm weirded out, but at the same time, I started making out with this girl, but I still had to go to the bathroom. So I remember I look at this girl once again, and I look at her in the eyes and said, "Yo, listen, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna be for real with you here." "Oh, okay, well, you know what? Here, follow me." At this moment, me and her, we ended up going to the bathroom. She showed me where it was, but right as I go in, she comes in right behind me. She comes in with me, and she looks at me and says, "Okay, I'm ready for this." She ended up going on her knees, and she took off everything, and she said, "Okay, Bubba, give it to me." And at that point, I'm like, what do you mean give it to you? At this point, she was basically asking me to urinate on her, or as people would say, do a golden shower. For some reason, this is actually a thing that people are into. It's really gross. In my opinion, don't do this, okay? It's disgusting. So I look at this girl and I think she is crazy. I'm starting to think, whoa, okay, don't get me wrong, you're hot, but this is freaky. And at that moment, everything clicked, because I started to understand what everyone was talking about when they said this girl was a weirdo, bro. So that moment, I remember I was really weirded out, and I didn't pull out my eggplant, nothing. I just looked at her and said, "Okay, listen, there's a lot of things I would do with a woman during the devil's tango, but this is the one thing that I will not do, okay? Like, I am not crazy." She looks at me and gets up and says, "Wait, you think I'm crazy? Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are right now? Okay, like, I get it, you do a lot of the devil's tango, but you are just not him, okay? So you know what? Maybe you should just leave." Honestly, you know, that's probably not a bad idea. She ended up grabbing me by the wrist and actually taking me to her front door and actually basically kicked me out. And even though I was really hurt by it, I remember I got so upset to the point where I ended up going to her front lawn and actually urinated on her front lawn. If anything, I'd rather feed the grass than feed her. I don't know. Honestly, I don't want to say anymore because, well, I don't want this video to get demonetized, but one thing's for sure, that day I started to realize that there are definitely some weirdos out there. I remember when I went downstairs, I ended up walking up to my babysitter, and I saw she had her finger up her nose, and then she ended up scratching her peach with it. Like, ew. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. So this story takes place back in my grade 5 year. So I was in elementary school, and I was just a basic kid, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not know any better than the average child. The only thing I cared about back when I was in grade 5 was tech decks, video games, and also probably Pokemon. I love Pokemon, and to this day I still do. But one thing I will say is that one thing I hated was that I was a major introvert, meaning that I would never be able to really go out and talk to people. Hell, I was even nervous to go and buy a pizza one time. Like, I could not talk to anybody, and I always felt like I was really, really awkward. Obviously, throughout middle school, I started learning how to not be, but especially in grade 5, honestly, I was just not good with interacting or basically confront someone in any way. But I remember one time I was walking home from my elementary school after my classes were done, and I basically started heading home. When I finally got home, I saw my parents were looking at me, and one of my parents ended up walking up to me, which was my mother, and said, "Oh, Baba, so we're gonna be leaving for a couple days. We're gonna give you a babysitter, so do not worry, everything will be okay." "Where are you guys going?" "Oh, we're going to quickly go visit your auntie in the States, so you do your thing here. Don't worry, the babysitter will be here any minute, but we have to go now, okay? I left some grilled cheese sandwich for you at the kitchen." Okay, is what I said, and right away my parents ended up leaving. Obviously at first I was really nervous about being home alone, but at the same time, like, it didn't seem that much of a difference since I wouldn't interact with my parents anyway, even if they were home. So I remember I ended up just going straight up to my room and started playing video games. Obviously in grade 5 you don't really get any crazy homework, so you know, I just ended up sitting on my Xbox playing video games the entire time and pretending that everything was okay, until out of nowhere I remember the doorbell rang and I ended up hearing someone at my door. Now once again, I was a major introvert, like to the point point where I was scared of everything. I was even afraid of my own shadow. So when I heard the doorbell rang, I remember I was super nervous to go basically answer the door, that I ended up going onto my balcony and looking down at my front door to see who it was. When I looked down, I saw that there was a girl in like a crop top. She was like a basic girl, and I remember I saw that there was already a stain on her shirt, and I'm not gonna lie to you, she looked disgusting. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I basically ended up looking down, and she looked up right away and saw me. She ended up saying, "Hi, you must be Bubba. Can you come get the door?" I mean, I can. Okay, well, can you? I remember at that moment, I felt like it was a really awkward situation, so I remember I ended up basically going off my balcony, sprinting straight to the front door, and I let her in. When I let her in, I remember she looks over at me and she started smiling at me. And when I saw her smile, I am not joking, she had the most yellow teeth ever. Like, her teeth were more yellow than Big Bird. Like, it was ultimately disgusting, and I remember I kept looking at her thinking, how in the world did my parents find this babysitter? I remember she ends up coming in and she ends up basically, like, you know, introducing herself and basically telling me how we're gonna have a great time and just, you know, the basic rundown of how the night's gonna go. Obviously for me, I ended up just, you know, ignoring her somewhat. Obviously this wasn't my first babysitter ever, but I will say that, you know, I just ended up just pretending I knew what she was saying, shaking my head, and I went straight back upstairs. When I went back upstairs, I remember I ended up going straight to my Xbox and I started playing Xbox again. But 5 minutes later, she ended up coming up to my room, and out of nowhere, even on the stairwell, I ended up hearing like a little fart sound, and I was like, wait a second, what was that? And then I ended up seeing my babysitter walk into the room and say, "Oh, hey Bubba, so I was just wondering, I'm a little hungry. Are you hungry?" "No, my mom gave me food before I left." "Oh, okay, well, I'm hungry, so is there anything for me to eat in the kitchen?" I mean, you can just help yourself," is what I said. And I remember she went straight downstairs and basically started doing her own thing. To be honest, I don't know what she did because I was upstairs playing Xbox, but I remember 20 minutes went by and I ended up basically getting actually hungry. I don't know why in grade 5 I would eat a lot. To be honest, I was a bit overweight back when I was in grade 5. But anyways, afterwards, I ended up going downstairs, and when I started to head downstairs, I turned the corner and instantly I ended up seeing that this babysitter was leaning back on a chair in the dining room table with her feet kicked up onto the table with her toes out, and she was eating crackers and ketchup together. Now listen, crackers and cheese, that makes sense, you know, cheese and crackers, that's fine, but ketchup and crackers? Like, are you joking, bro? That's disgusting. I remember at that moment I looked at her and I basically looked at her really weird, and she looked at me saying, "Oh, you must be hungry. Here, do you want a cracker and ketchup?" I'm good, thanks," is what I told her. And I remember I basically ended up walking away and went to the living room to watch TV. I remember after a while, I actually started starving even more and more, to the point where I ended up basically texting my parents that I was starving and that this babysitter cannot cook for the life of her. My parents ended up texting me, "Oh, Bubba, well, we left some cash for you upstairs under daddy's pillow. Go upstairs and get some money." So I remember I ended up sprinting upstairs, went downstairs, and I remember I basically ended up walking up to my babysitter saying, "I was just wondering, is it cool if we order a pizza? I'm not paying for a pizza." "Oh, no, it's okay. My mom gave me money to pay for it. Is it cool if we ordered a pizza?" "Yeah, sure, just order it." I was hoping you would order it, if that's okay." The reason I said this was because I was really nervous back then. I was really scared to basically call literally anyone. Yes, I had a phone, but it was only to call my parents. And to be fair, those were the only 2 numbers that were ever saved on my phone until obviously middle school. That's when I started pulling girls. But, you know, I was just extremely nervous. I remember this girl ends up grabbing her phone and she ends up calling the pizza place, orders us a pizza. Except this pizza was the most disgusting pizza ever. She ended up getting sardines on the pizza and then pineapples. And on top of that, she ended up getting olives on top of it. At that moment, I slammed my head up against the wall and I just knew like I was not going to eat that night, and I was just really upset. So what I decided to do is basically go into my kitchen cabinet and I ended up grabbing a loaf of bread and I ate that for the rest of the night. I remember 40 minutes went by and I ended up hearing the doorbell ring, and obviously it was the pizza guy, and I knew it was because I could smell the pizza coming from my window. And this babysitter ends up grabbing the pizza from the front door and calling me downstairs to eat the pizza with her. Now me, obviously I wasn't hungry anymore since I ate a loaf of bread, so I ended up going downstairs and I just sat with her basically. And I remember when this babysitter ended up opening up the pizza box, I am not joking, she ended up basically scratching her peach and literally was picking her nose, and then she went for the pizza slice. Like, bro, I didn't want to be anywhere near that pizza after I witnessed that. I was so disgusted, and I looked at her saying, "Are you not gonna wash your hands?" "Bubba, why would I wash my hands? I'm a girl. I'm just naturally clean." At that moment, I realized that this girl had no sense of hygiene hygiene or anything. And me, I was just so grossed out to the point where I just didn't want to be anywhere near her. But let's just say things went from gross to ultimately disgusting, because what happens next, I gotta say, really freaks me out. I remember it was super late at night and it was around 10:30 at night. Now me, usually my bedtime was at 10 o'clock back when I was in grade 5. So I remember I went upstairs, I went to my room, and I basically started laying down getting ready for sleeping. But as I was laying down getting ready to sleep, I remember out of nowhere my babysitter ends up walking into my room. She walks into my room and looks at me and says, "Oh, Baba, I was just wondering, do you want like some company?" I remember I looked at her really confused and I said, "No, why? Is everything okay?" "No, it's just I can't really sleep by myself." At that moment, I was really confused because I'm like, wait, does this girl want to do the devil's tango with me? Like, what in the world's happening? And then one thing led to another. She ended up getting under my blanket with me and laying down beside me and passing out. At that moment, I was super annoyed because not only did this girl stink of anchovies, but she was just super disgusting. And I just couldn't sleep and I just felt like really weird. And also, what kind of babysitter does this? I remember after a while, like 20 minutes went by and me, I was still wide awake. She was passed out dead and I'm just laying there thinking this could not get any worse. But guess what? It ended up getting way worse because out of nowhere, I ended up looking to the side and I saw she ended up moving her like peach a little bit and she ended up releasing the loudest fart sound ever in my bed under the blanket. At that moment, I remember when she moved the blanket a bit around after that crazy fart, I ended up basically getting a whole whiff of what was coming out of under my blanket. And I'm not joking, my eyes started to water. I was so grossed out. And I remember I really just wanted to get out of there. So I ended up getting up and I actually ended up sleeping on my living room couch just because I could not breathe in my room anymore. I remember the next morning came by and I remember she ended up walking up to me on the couch and she asked me, "Baba, why'd you pass out on the couch? Is everything okay?" I looked at her and I just kind of rolled my eyes at her and I went upstairs to brush my teeth. But as for this babysitter, well, one thing I was right about, she did not brush her teeth. And I remember she ended up basically sitting on my couch and basically was ultimately disgusting. I will say though, when my parents finally got home, things were a lot better because obviously she ended up leaving. I told my parents, never ever get that disgusting babysitter again. They looked at me confused, but I knew what I was talking about. Okay, so honestly, in girl world, there's a lot of things I don't understand. And I think this story is gonna show how much I don't understand, even though I do the devil's tango a lot, okay? But honestly, before we get into it, let's just say I love you guys to death. Seriously, you guys are literally changing my life every single day. And also, I do want to talk to you guys and hang out with you guys more, so make sure you guys do follow the Twitch and also come also to the Discord server. Seriously, like just come in the Discord server. Don't just come. Never mind. Anyways, yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story takes place back, I want to say, in high school. In high school, I'm gonna be honest, I was doing the devil's tango a lot, okay? Like I was doing it a lot. But when it came to actually like, you know, knowing the proper necessities, the only thing I knew was like the base protection. I didn't know about the plan B. I didn't know about any of those things. I didn't even know that was a general thing in this world. Because let's be real here, plan A doesn't work. You just go to deal with it and cry about it. That's what I was more used to. But this story of me finding out plan B was really, really difficult. So like I said, back when I was in grade 10, there was this girl that I was talking to. She was in my science class. She was a really nice girl and she was outstanding. Me and her, we always talked and we always like, you know, we had that base like friendship. But in reality, like me and her were both already attracted to each other. It's just someone had to make the first move. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, usually it would be me making the first move. But this time, I don't know, I was kind of like settling a little bit. So I was like, oh, like maybe she'll do it this time, you know, maybe I don't have to do it. By the way, guys, that's never usually the case. But I remember one time on Snapchat, it was a late night. Obviously, when it's a late night on Snapchat, usually things do get freaky. And me and her, we started talking more in depth about things we could do to each other. Yeah, I know, kind of weird coming from me, but let's be real here. Like, it's part of high school. Like, you guys are gonna meet girls. You guys are gonna have those weird conversations. And you guys are gonna have those, like, things. Like, it's general science. It will happen. Unless, you know, you put your head in the books and just pretend no one's around you. Then, I mean, that's a smart way, too. That's how usually, you know, smart people get into big schools and stuff. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So, going on, I remember me and her, we had a late night on Snapchat. We talked really freaky, okay? Like, freaky. And I remember the next day at science class when we sat beside each other, knowing we just hit that barrier of, like, a new world kind of vibe, you know what I mean? Me and her, we started getting a little touchy as well. It went from, you know, me touching her thigh to her touching me around my thingamabob thingy and so on and so forth. After class, me and her started talking and I remember she asked me, oh, like what do you plan on doing today? If you're not doing anything, we can hang out. And in my head, I'm like, shoot, I didn't bring my car because I'm hanging out with my buddy Lane after. So in my head, I'm like, oh, like, you know, like I'm busy. I'm hanging out with my buddy. Like, sorry, I didn't bring my car today and stuff like that. And she told me, oh, like, what is he doing? And in my head, I'm like, is she gonna like want to come with us? Like, is this a thing? So I told her, like, you know, me and him were going for a drive and stuff. And she's like, oh, like, can I come? And I didn't say no specifically, but I did say, give me a minute and let me ask him. Because obviously, you know, if he's a homie and stuff, I'm going to go ask him. And I don't think he would ever turn down inviting girls like to hang out. So I remember after that conversation, I went over to Lane. And if you guys don't know Lane, he's a friend of mine. He's a homie. And we talked for a long time. Like, he's knew me since middle school. And I asked him, yo, like, bro, like, do you have any girls you can invite to like hang out for today? And he asked me like, why? Like, I thought we were doing like a guys thing. And then I say, well, there's a girl I really want to hang out with. And like, I don't know if like you're down to also hang out with her and stuff, you know, it'd be awkward just three-wheeling, you know what I mean? And he said, okay. And he invited like another girl to come hang out. And this was a girl he was actually talking to at the time, I think, as well. So I remember that day after school, me and him, we started actually like getting things together and we planned on what to do together with two girls, basically. Basically, we were planning our double date. That's the best way to really explain it. But I'm gonna be realistic with you guys. Planning a double date was not that easy. Like, I had no idea what to do. So what me and my buddy decided at the time was to take him to a movie. And that's what we did. We just took him to an early movie. I think this movie was like around 6 o'clock. It was a very basic movie. I don't remember what it was, to be honest. I don't know what it is with me in movies. Like, I feel like it's the best way to get a girl to like, you know, watch a movie with you. I don't know. But after the movie, I'm not gonna lie, we got bored. Since we went to go see an early movie, like I said, at 6 o'clock, we didn't actually like have a plan for the rest of the day. At first, the girls were thinking, oh, like we should go eat dinner. But in my head, I'm thinking, no, I'm not gonna go eat dinner because that's more money. And I'm gonna be honest, this is only the first date. And like, no, like it's just not worth it. So after that, I remember me and her and me and my buddy Lane, we got into his car and planned to go to a viewpoint. But this wasn't a normal viewpoint. If you guys don't know, like this is a viewpoint where you could like literally see the like entire city and stuff. And there was some construction up there as well going on at the time. So like, you know, it was just a nice view. So I remember me and my buddy, we got into the car. I sat in the back seat with the girl that I was talking to, and he sat in the front seat with the girl he was talking to. We went up and we drove all the way up that massive hill, and we parked the car and looked over at the sunset. The sun was setting. We were all talking at first, just hanging out. And then obviously from there, we started getting a little touchy. You know, I got touchy with my girl. He got touchy with his girl. And we started just doing basic makeout sesh. I was in the back seat. He was in the front seat. That was going on for, I want to say like 20 minutes. But let's just say as that was going on, I'm not going to lie to you guys. The girl I was with started going ham. And by going ham, I mean, she was getting to the point where it wasn't just a normal makeout sesh like they were doing. She actually started getting on top of me. And you know, as much as I love my buddy, I don't think he would want me doing it in his car. Like, let's be real here, doing the devil's tango in your friend's car when he's in the car it's not really it. And I remember I could just see him like kind of glancing at the rearview mirror like, are they actually gonna do it in the back of my car? You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really pushing it. It was mostly the girl that was kind of like getting on. But yeah, anyways, it was weird. But yeah, you know, things started going a bit more and more, and the music was loud and stuff. And honestly, I was kind of just vibing. You know, I'm not gonna lie. In scenarios like these, I kind of just vibe and see where the flow takes us. But then I'm not gonna lie, the girl that my buddy was seeing at the time, let's just say she's a really uptight person. I think that's the best way to really explain it. She was very uptight. And I remember the girl that my buddy was talking to at the time started saying how it's really awkward that it was happening and stuff. She said something like, it's really weird how he's like doing it right now in the back seat. Like, they're getting way too close. You should tell him to like not do it in the car. And my buddy obviously is like, yo, Bubba. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, can you like guys like not do it like that much in the back of my car? So I said, okay. And then I told her like, you know, like we need to tone it down. But then she told me, oh, like there's like a porta potty over there if you want to go there. And I'm like, oh, like, you know, she has to go to the bathroom. That's at least what I thought. But when she pointed out the porta potty, I remember we both got out of the car because it was a small car at the time. And I remember we walked over to the porta potty and then we both went in together. Was I gonna watch her pee? No, I did not want to see her push pee. I mean, pee, not push and pee. Anyways, sorry. I did not want to see her do any sort of bathroom potty. Okay. But she didn't go in there to do a bathroom potty. She actually went in there and we started making out in the porta potty. And long story short, from making out into a porta potty, we continued it until we actually ended up doing the devil's tango in the porta potty. I know, crazy, right? And I'm not gonna lie, to all places, and you guys know I love my bathroom stories, we somehow ended up doing it in a porta potty. That is the most craziest thing in the world. Like, to this day, actually blew my mind that, you know, out of all the bathroom stories we put on this channel, I'd be doing it the one where I actually say I did it in a porta potty because it's like the ultimate dirtiest bathroom in the world. I think we all know that, especially a construction worker porta potty. You guys know how disgusting those are, right? But yeah, we full on did the devil's tango in the porta potty, and it was absolutely gross. Okay, like I'm not gonna lie, I think the only thing that like was actually like holding our entire like session was her holding the toilet seat when I'm just going from behind. Simple as that. That's the only picture I can give you guys without really getting demonetized here. Okay, but anyways, after that, I remember we both got out of there, and my friend and his girlfriend were just looking like over like to the other side of the car from her side door and just kind of shaking their heads like, what the heck is going on? Like, it was just really awkward. And I'm not gonna lie, this girl, she had no regrets doing this. So we got back in the car and my friend's girl was like really disgusted and like that's kind of gross. And then Lane, my buddy of mine, he's like, can't believe you actually did it in the porta potty. And honestly, let's just say it was really, really, really weird. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Out of all the bathroom stories I've done, this was definitely one of the ones that I wish I did not tell sometimes. But at the same time though, it's my life and I've done a lot of crazy things and you guys will learn that over time. But like I always say, make sure you guys follow for more embarrassing stories. And on top of that, make sure you guys follow the Twitch and Discord if you guys have any questions about any of these stories that I post on this channel. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories.